Black Ops 6 Zombies just released and it's getting really good reviews across the board. As a hardcore Black Ops 3 Zombies fan though, I honestly had zero hype going into this game, despite Activision supplying me with a code to play it. I also didn't plan on reviewing it for this exact reason. The more I saw, the more I hated, and it was just so hard for me to be excited that I even brought myself to play Vanguard Zombies for the first time just to maybe trick myself into liking it. And it just didn't work. So when I finally played Black Ops 6 Zombies for the first time, I was genuinely shocked that not only did I have fun, but I also kind of liked it. Now, of course, there are still tons of things I dislike about the mode, but we'll get into that later because for this video, I really want to ask the question, did Treyarch just save COD Zombies? And of course, I'm not claiming Zombies is dead, as it's arguably the biggest it has ever been, just objectively, with revenue to match, I'm sure. But what I'm referring to here is the mindset of a Black Ops 3 diehard, the Black Ops 3 fans that think that Zombies is basically done for and we're never going back to the glory days. So I'm gonna ask the question in this video, is Black Ops 6 finally the game to break the cycle and bring us home? You see, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War was an extremely controversial game. It added things like weapon rarities, armor stations, crafting and more, and a lot of this completely turned off Zombies fans, which is why when Treyarch's 4-year cycle Zombies game made rounds, players, myself included, were hopeful for change. Like maybe they'd finally listen. So let's see some of the differences between the two games, and then I'm going to review the two launch maps of Black Ops 6 Zombies, and then we'll talk about things that I don't like and want to see changed. So the main differences between Cold War and Black Ops 6, well, first of all, let's start with the new augment system. So we did have something similar to this in Cold War, but it was through a more RPG-esque currency-based upgrade system. In Black Ops Cold War, you could upgrade your perks and ammo types and field upgrades using Ethereum crystal that you would get from playing the game. And honestly, this is a feature which I actually enjoyed in Cold War. It wasn't that I enjoyed the different types of Ethereum crystal or the grind to upgrade this stuff, but nonetheless, I actually did think it was a pretty cool idea to basically have your perks and your gameplay evolve the more you play the game. It stopped it getting stale quickly, and that's something that I actually did enjoy. Now, in Black Ops 6, they have changed the system to the augment system, which is basically the exact same thing, but the difference is now you pick between 2 out of 3 on either side augments per upgrade. So Stamina Up has 3 minor and 3 major, and you select one of each to equip. And you research these augments just by selecting the one you're going to research and then playing the game. I gotta say, I don't like this as much as the Cold War system. While I do enjoy the concept of what it does, like the Cold War system, I do think it's a lot more grindy and it's just not as satisfying to upgrade stuff in, my personal opinion. But the augments themselves are fun and they do change up gameplay in a pretty meaningful way. I don't think they're too overpowered and I don't think they're too weak. I think it's definitely worth chasing them, but I think if you're blaming the game on, being too hard because you don't have augments, that's just a skill issue. But moving on, this is a brand new feature in Black Ops 6 which we haven't seen since Black Ops 3, and it's the return of Gobblegums. No longer Dr. Monty's, but now Mr. Peaks, a character which I did not like at all in Cold War. I've always liked the classic teddy bear, but I will say the way that they've built up Mr. Peaks in this game has had him grow on me a lot. In Cold War, I felt like Mr. Peaks was just a massive joke, but when they released the teaser for Gobblegums in Black Ops 6 and they had that creepy jingle for the Gobblegum machine, I was pretty hooked. I was like, okay, they might have something on their hands here. Like, this is what I want to see them do. And the way Mr. Peaks is pushed in this game also, pretty good. So Mr. Peaks now runs the Gobblegums, and I gotta say, a lot of them are a way better balanced than Black Ops 3, which is just my first impressions of them. Like near-death experience, which was just outright broken for Black Ops 3. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh god, this is gonna be just like so disgusting for boss fights. But luckily, they've balanced near-death experience now to where it only lasts like 60 seconds. Basically, every Gobblegum now also requires requires you to manually chew it as well, so you can't just accidentally grab it from the machine and then, you know, you've wasted a perkaholic, so that's really nice too. And one change that they've also made, which I don't actually like at all, is how basically in Black Ops 3, for a long time, Gobblegums cost money, but over time, they did a community event and then finally made it a permanent feature where the first gun each round would be free. This is just a permanent feature in Black Ops 6. The Gobblegums are always going to be free, and I really just hate this. Like, it doesn't feel like it needs to be there. I'm never in a spot where I feel like I need a free Gobblegum. 500 points isn't a lot to part with, especially in this game on the higher rounds. I will say though, at the very least, you can only get one Gobblegum every round unless you want to wait 300 seconds, which is 5 minutes basically. So you're usually only grabbing 1 or 2 gums per round, but I really wish this just wasn't the case. I wish they just went back to the classic version of 500 points and then scaling the cost up as you go. But one thing that I do like, and this is going to end up being a very controversial topic, is how you earn Gobblegums now. There is no more Dr. Monty's factory. Instead, as you're playing, you get this really cute little widget that spins and gives you a Gobblegum at the end of a round. And I really like this. It feels way more fair, and it feels like I'm getting way more Gobblegums quicker than I would in Black Ops 3. In Black Ops 3, I'd end a game and maybe get 3 to 4 liquid divinium on average, and now in Black Ops 6, I'm ending games and I'm coming out with maybe 6, 7, or even 8 Gobblegums at a time. So it just feels like I'm making more for my time that I'm putting into the game. Now, I will say, I'm not going to praise this too much because I do think this is going to turn out exactly the same as Black Ops 3. There is no Dr. Monty's factory, there is no liquid divinium to buy, and if it rolls a random Gobblegum at the end of the round and there is 35 Gobblegums and I need perkaholics for something, that is a 1 in 35 chance to get that, assuming I roll 1 Gobblegum at the end of each round. Now, I guarantee that after post-launch, and I'm so confident I don't even need to place bets on this, this is just, it's gonna happen, Activision are gonna have Treyarch put in 20, 30, 40 new Gobblegums, and it's gonna be impossible to roll what you're actually after at the end of rounds, and they are going to put store bundles and Gobblegums in the store for astronomical prices. I can feel it coming. Oh baby, it's coming. But on the bright side, if it means Zombies gets ultra monetization, maybe we'll get more stuff like, you know, Terminus, for example, which we'll talk about later. Another new change in Black Ops 6 is the Wonder Fizz. Only spawns at round 25. This is a really nice change, and it completely solves my issue with the Wonder Fizz. And it's very important to know, like, as a Black Ops 3 fan, the one thing I see a lot of people doing is saying, oh, you know, if you like Black Ops 3 so much, go back and play it, stay away from our game. But it's important to note that it's not just Black Ops 3 fans want everything to be like Black Ops 3, right? Like, for me personally, there's just things that I see which I don't like, and if adjustments are made, I like them. And for example, the Wonder Fizz in Cold War, complete turn off for me. The Wonder Fizz in Black Ops 6, I have zero issue with it. This is really well done, and yeah, I mean, it's just great. Speaking of round 25 as well, zombies will now get stronger at round 25. That's like the threshold. I don't know how much stronger they get at round 25. They definitely do get a lot harder, and that's where the high rounding really begins. There is some qualms that I do have with the high rounding in Black Ops 6, like the mini boss spam is just absolutely disgusting, and the mini bosses just feel like major bullet sponges, which isn't really hard. I don't find myself going down to them, but I do find myself just shooting them for 20 years, which just straight up is not fun. But I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this because I do know for a fact this is going to get changed. Like, there's way too many people talking about this, so the chances are when you're watching this, this has already been fixed. The salvage system has also been changed from Cold War. This is something which was very important to me. Now, let me just say, I still don't like salvage. I want a classic mode. We'll get into that later. But the changes from uncommon and rare salvage in Cold War to just the new salvage system in Black Ops 6 is so much better. I'm not going to cuss because I can't be bothered to edit it out in post-production, but it's just so freaking cool. It's way cooler than it was in Black Ops Cold War, where the aura was just -100. Again, I'm going to use the term RPG a lot because in Cold War it was very RPG-esque of going out to get all these different materials, or I guess you could say a collectathon. I don't think RPG is the right term, but you get what I'm saying. You'd have to go out and collect these uncommon salvage from zombies, and then rare salvage from zombies, and different stuff could craft different things, and the game just turned into freaking Minecraft. It was just awful. It was just I'm getting angry just talking about it. These are the things in Cold War which drove me away, and these are the things in Cold War which got defended by people who just hate Black Ops 3 fans. It is not the same in Black Ops 6. There is one type of salvage, and it does everything. That is all you're grabbing for the entire game. It is much like the point system. There's 2 point systems now. It is essence and salvage. That is the 2 things you're grabbing, and it is so much better. It is such a big improvement, and I'm so glad they actually listened and made zombies feel less like a collectathon. So yeah, salvage is just so much more better done now. And on the topic of salvage, I want to go into armor as well. In Black Ops Cold War, there was an armor station where you'd have to go through and grab your armor from it. And one thing I want to just quickly talk about, there was a lot of menus in Cold War where you would just go over to something and you would interact with it and it would pull up a menu. There's not many menus in Black Ops 6, which is a real relief, because why the hell would I want a menu popping up on my screen at round 40? What, you know what I mean? So anyway, I just wanted to quickly mention that there is barely any menus now. There's no menu on basically anything barring the upgrade system. Like, but you know, for Pack-a-Punch, for example, there's no menu. There's no menu for the Gobblegum machine. Nothing like that. But yes, there is no armor station now, and there is also no PAT menu. There's just less menus in general, which is better for gameplay. Now you get your armor through buying armor plates on the wall, and armor plates also drop from zombies. I gotta say, I still hate the armor system. I do not like it. Plating up does not belong in zombies. That is a Warzone feature. Please keep it over there. This is not nostalgia talking. This is not, I don't know, rose-colored shades, whatever deflection people want to use. This is clear-headed, just the vision that I have. This is not fun. It is not fun in gameplay. It is not fun to feel like I need to kill zombies just to pick up armor, just to stay alive. It is not fun to hear my armor get broken. It is not fun to upgrade my armor. Nothing is fun about the armor system. It is not good. I can put up with it, but it is not good. I would like to see it removed in a classic mode, which again we'll talk about later. But nonetheless, I don't want to get too carried away. That kind of covers the bases of everything that's pretty much new in between Black Ops 6 and Cold War. Now, we're gonna stop there and we're gonna get into reviewing the actual launch maps for this game. If you like this video, then maybe in the future we'll do the DLC maps for this game, but we're going to talk about Liberty Falls and Terminus. But before that, I'll give you a little tiny story recap here. So basically, at the end of Forsaken, which was the last map in Black Ops Cold War, Samantha sacrifices herself to basically save the world and puts herself inside of a giant sphere. Then she breaks out of that sphere in the intro to Liberty Falls. Edward is seemingly not happy about this, who is Richtofen, by the way, and that's how Liberty Falls begins. Now, simultaneously, or around that same time, on Terminus Island, which is a prison, Weaver, Carver, a whole bunch of other characters from Cold War are trapped in prison because of Richtofen, and they now want to break out. So everybody kind of hates Richtofen, Sam hates Richtofen, and the people in Terminus hate Richtofen. So basically the whole loose story that you should know for Black Ops 6 so far is seemingly that everybody hates Richtofen. Go figure. And with that, let's get into the first map review. What does this Black Ops 3 diehard think of Liberty Balls? I actually do like Liberty Falls, but not entirely for the reasons you might think. So first of all, the big topic is aura, and I'm just going to keep it straight. The map does not feel like a zombies map visually. I am a big fan of daytime zombies maps, but not like this. There is almost zero aura here. It feels like a Warzone POI, and I'm not just using buzzwords to try and get on the hate train. I really do mean it to the full effect. Liberty Falls doesn't even feel any moodier like they said they were going to make it than when we first seen it. It just feels same, it looks the same, and there is no real aura. Again, it just feels like a Warzone POI, which I am sure if you're a Warzone or MP player who's only just now playing zombies for the first time, that's not a big deal. For people like myself, I believe that by the art style, as far as that's concerned, it is creatively bankrupt. Yes, the outbreak has only just happened, and yes, they can't just go and make it pure nighttime with meteorites going around, but there's always a way where you can improve visually, and I don't think that was done here. Liberty Falls feels very bland, boring, and just lifeless to look at. Even going into the church does not look all that crazy. While it is very pretty, pretty in there, it still just has this feel to it which doesn't really feel that great. So it's not even about making the map a galaxy. I just think overall the direction they went with for Liberty Falls setting wise, and also just again the art style and creative vision there, just doesn't look that great. The level design, however, is pretty okay. It could be better, but it's definitely not bad by any stretch of the imagination. And yeah, I do think the map itself actually plays fairly decent. Another thing that I'm not too keen on with this map, however, is the boss zombie of the map, which is the Abomination, which is reused from Cold War in Forsaken, which is also just the Margwa reused. And I am not someone who gets really upset at reused assets, but Cold War really scarred me with the consistent reuse of the Mangler, bringing back the Avogadro, and then the Margwa into the Abomination, and then in this game, of course, the Mangler's back and the Abomination's back. And it's just not that fun. I don't find it fun to fight in this game either, just like I didn't in Cold War. The Abomination, especially for the Easter egg, is a nightmare to take down. Remember that I should specify here, I don't mean hard, I mean annoying. There's two very different meanings there. But yeah, I don't think the Abomination's all that great. I don't think it's all that fun to fight. It's usually a nuisance when it shows up rather than a danger, and I'm not a huge fan of it. We're going to keep stacking up the L's here. The Manglers, like I just said, are back in Black Ops 6 with more health than they need to have, an annoying over-the-top spam at high rounds, and an even more annoying homing cannon, which just feels cheap when you get hit by it. Seriously, I hate that thing. Again, not difficult, just a nuisance, just annoying, which if that's what they're going for, then that's great. One change that I do like, however, is that the dog rounds are now pest rounds. While I did like dog rounds before, the pest rounds are an interesting change. You have the spiders in this map, which are cool and creepy, but overall, while they can be fairly annoying and pesky to take down, they are a fun and unique change. I do like the pest rounds in Black Ops 6 and in Liberty Falls in general. Now, moving on to the main quest, we're back to L's here, unfortunately. The main quest I think is super underwhelming in Liberty Falls, with steps that just feel extremely boring to do and more of a fetch quest than a main quest, akin to that of Zetsabo with the elevator cogs, or Gorod Krovi with the trophy stuff. This isn't a new thing in zombies, which is why I'm not going to go too hard on Liberty Falls for it, but it is something that in Easter eggs I usually yawn when I see, and it's kind of back here. Just a whole lot of random stuff you're doing which doesn't really feel very fun. I don't really enjoy running Liberty Falls again personally, but that's why I said that the main quest is underwhelming. I don't think it's a bad main quest. I have ran it numerous times and done the speed run, so it's not something which I can't sit through. But straight up, if I was going to rank it amongst other quest steps, then yeah, I would just say that it's a pretty underwhelming one. I'd probably place it in the C or D tier. Also on the main quest, the final encounter I think feels really messy, with a loop that doesn't feel very fun to play, which is sort of expected for a map with no true boss fight in its Easter egg, but nonetheless, I do think that the final encounter is a really big letdown, unfortunately. However, the best part of Liberty Falls is all of the side Easter eggs, which is only going to become more in depth with Terminus soon. But yeah, I do think that the side quests in Liberty Falls are really fun. There's of course the bowling alley Easter egg where you can play bowling. That one is really interesting and unique, and you also get a little Dark Ops challenge with it. And then also you can get an achievement from the Aether side quest where you quite literally turn into an action figure that shoots lasers. So overall, despite what I said about Liberty Falls, it's a solid launch map for casual gameplay, and I really do think that it is geared more towards getting Warzone and MP players to play zombies for the first time, and I think it would do a good job at converting them into zombies players if they played it. But if you're a diehard zombies fan, especially a BO3 fan, you may feel underwhelmed by this map, but overall it is fun to play. And on a bonus note here, it does actually make the jet gun good, which is surprising. But of course the map doesn't hold a candle to maps like 9 or the Giant, at least in my opinion. Those maps are still far and beyond this map. It is, again, not close. But those are my thoughts on Liberty Falls, or Liberty Balls as it's been conned. So let's move on to Terminus. Does Epic like Terminus? This map was hyped up a lot by the devs, so what do I think about it? I personally think that Terminus is one of Treyarch's strongest launch maps of all time. Advertised as one of the largest maps in Call of Duty Zombies, Terminus doesn't really feel like it. A lot of that marketing is in part due to the huge water plane on the map, which a lot of the time you won't even be in when it comes to general gameplay. Most of the islands on Terminus have no real reason for you to be there other than side Easter eggs, and Crab Island really only has one armor upgrade on there, which you can also skip since the same one can be found in the biolab. In reality, I think the size of Terminus feels more like Der Eisendrache as opposed to Origins, Blood of the Dead, or just to name a few. And speaking of the islands, when trying to get to them, you'll most likely be attacked by Patient 13's tentacle and the unwavering gas he farts out. Now, there is no real way to outrun it infinitely since the movement speed of it will keep scaling the longer it chases you, and when it does catch you, the damage will begin ramping up really quickly. The only way that I found to take the gas out was to step onto land and wait it out, but that gets extremely annoying really fast, and I actually think the map takes a little bit of a hit because of this mechanic. You can shoot the tentacle to stop the gas if you're fast enough, but it happens so quick that you're usually just too late. Also, one of the things that I was really interested about with Terminus when I first saw it was how scary the map would be. Believe it or not, there is a huge deterrent for me playing zombies maps based off of how scary they are. It's not that I find them scary, they're more so eerie, and that kind of puts me off of replaying them. But interestingly enough, Terminus isn't very scary at all, and I think this might have to do with the overall feel of Black Ops 6. It does still kind of have that remnant of Cold War feel to it, to where it just tones down the eeriness. It's not like Black Ops 3 where I can play like Revelations, for example, and feel really unnerved, or same with Horizon, Gorod Krovi, Zetsabo, or basically any map in that game. The feel here is just different for some reason, and Terminus to me doesn't feel scary, which might sound like a bad thing, and it might be a bad thing for you. For me, this is actually a good thing, because if it was a really scary map, I probably would not replay it as much as I have. I know that's a really weird tangent to go on right there, but that really is how I feel about the map. I'm genuinely really happy it's not as scary. Even the jump scare on the map doesn't feel that scary at all. Now, I want to talk about side quests, because the detail on side quests in Terminus is really incredible. They remind me almost of Der Eisendrache with stuff like the Pirate's Cursed Coin quest, or Zetsabo with the Companion quest. These rewards that you get from side quests change up gameplay and aren't always just free power-ups like most would assume, but they are on the map as well if you want that. There is a lot of side Easter eggs that just give you a power-up or give you points. And as for the wonder weapon of the map, it's the Beam Smasher, and I'm not a huge fan of it. Surprisingly, I'm actually a bigger fan of the Jet Gun than I am of the Beam Smasher. The idea is that you use the second mode to debuff zombies and the first mode to kill them, but unfortunately in the 40s it falls off pretty fast, and I'd much rather just use a standard gun at that point. But what I really like about Terminus is the main quest. It has a lot of steps which aren't very interesting, but the boss fight portion is what I really enjoy, and it makes up for the main quest steps feeling so lacking. The first boss fight is where you tackle an amalgam who breaks out of his pod in the biolab, and it's really intense and quite difficult if you're not prepared, because it does have a lot more health than a typical amalgam, or at least that's how it feels. And then the second boss fight, which is the main boss fight of the quest, sees you fighting this huge Cthulhu-esque monster never really seen before in zombies, with a fight I personally feel is the second strongest fight to Mephistopheles, and the first if we're strictly talking Treyarch fights. It's really good. My only real complaint is how all over the place it can feel due to the horrible spawn system of Black Ops 6 Zombies, where 15 can spawn literally anywhere at any time, which takes away from the flow of the gameplay. To me, there's never really a time where memorizing spawns feels important in this game, because there could be anywhere from 10 to 15 or 1 to 15 in one area spawning at once, and on high rounds the gameplay just becomes a smashed up apple pie instead of a well held together dessert. I know that might sound like an insane analogy, but seriously, like in the final boss fight you'll also feel this come into play a lot, because zombies are just constantly poking at you as you just try to figure out your bearings. It's really not enjoyable for me as a player. That's not the gameplay I enjoy. I do like gameplay that feels very cliche and very patterned. Like for example, when I play Souls games, I don't like bosses that just spam attacks at me. I like to find a rhythm. I like bosses with predictable attacks. That's the kind of gameplay I like. And it's not a skill issue. Like, I can reach round 100 on maps if I want. I can do challenge runs and beat Easter eggs, but that's not the gameplay I enjoy. I want to enjoy my time in zombies, not feel inconvenienced by it. But nonetheless, moving on, the final cutscene of Terminus is where I really think this game grabs me. In the final cutscene, it's revealed that Edward Richtofen is trying to get his hands on the Sentinel artifact to utilize Prima Materia. This is basically Treyarch bringing back the Chaos storyline from Black Ops 4, which to me is an insane instant interest gainer. I can't speak for everyone, but I hate the Dark Aether storyline. I truly despise the storyline. I didn't like how Aether ended in Black Ops 4. To me, it felt lazy and rushed, and I don't think it was the proper send-off. And with Dark Aether, I was open to a completely new storyline, but then they just rehashed Aether again. They brought those characters back. That's not what I wanted Dark Aether to do. I know the name of it kinda infers that they're going to do that, but that is not what I wanted from a new storyline. If they were gonna retire Aether, I really wanted them to just stay gone, but they just brought them back in Dark Aether, and I just don't understand what the point in ending it was to begin with if we were just going to end up here again. I see the argument rise constantly that they did this so that they could just start fresh with less research having to be done in order to understand the storyline, but when you bring back characters like Richtofen and Samantha, you're still going to need to research the storyline to even understand why they're just working against each other. The story just simply wouldn't be as engaging without that extended knowledge. And also, they have like 60 intel that you need to kind of listen to piece other things together. Is that not the same as what they were trying to get away from? To me, it just doesn't make a lot of sense, and the characters inside of the story aren't very interesting either right now. However, with the possibility of them merging Chaos with Dark Aether, a storyline that was previously forgotten can now be given new life, and luckily, unlike the Dark Aether and Aether debacle, you don't need to do much research to understand Chaos because it's very new. It's this reasoning right here, which is why I'm really intrigued to see what the DLC maps have in store, and I pray that Treyarch doesn't fumble the bag, but ultimately it's just hard to believe in them after Cold War, which in my opinion was just outright awful with the DLC content. But regardless, I'm wandering off topic greatly here, but I do strongly believe that Terminus is one of Treyarch's strongest launch maps of all time for zombies. It is really good, and it has a ton of replayability. If you have Black Ops 6 and you're still holding off on zombies and you did play the other ones, I would recommend giving this one a shot. Terminus over Liberty Falls, it is just a very good launch map. I would recommend checking it out once again, I'll repeat that. But with Liberty Falls and Terminus out of the way and reviewed, there are no maps for me to talk about until I believe it's December when we get the next map. So instead, now let's talk about what I don't like about Black Ops 6 Zombies and what I want to see added or changed to truly, in my eyes, make this on par with, if not better, than Black Ops 3 Zombies. There's going to be some controversial stuff in here, but that's completely fine. What I pick here might not be for you, and what you pick might not be for me, but ultimately, for me as a player, this is what I want to see them do with Black Ops 6 Zombies. The first I'd like to talk about is the HUD. This was a huge point of contention before Black Ops 6 Zombies released because people didn't think it had enough aura, and I was one of those who actually agreed. They did make subtle improvements to it, and while I think the improvements were extremely minimal, they were there. Now, the one thing I will give Treyarch huge commendations for is that there is so many options to turn off or change elements of the HUD if you do or do not like them, but there are some improvements to the HUD I'd still like to see being made. The first one is that Gobblegums and calling card unlocks, for whatever reason, are classed as medals, which means if you don't like medals, you don't like to see that you're getting a Merciless in zombies, but you do want to see the Gobblegums you're unlocking during the game, you have to have either all of them active or none of them active. Now, currently there is a workaround where if you set the opacity extremely low, then you'll still get the Gobblegums and the calling cards at full display, and then the, medals will be very low opacity, but it would be nice to see these separated into their own tabs. And on the subject of the HUD in general, I would like to see it just zombified a little more, maybe have a cooler background for the HUD, some of the elements make them look a little more worn down and zombified. These are things which I don't think they're going to do, but for me personally, it would help add to the feel of Black Ops 6 Zombies. The next one is very simple. This is just touching on what we've been discussing, is do not fumble this game in DLC. The number one thing I don't want to see Treyarch do is what happened in Cold War, MWZ, 3 and more where they just reuse AI. I don't need to see the Mangler for the 20th time, and I certainly don't need to see the Abomination return either. I'm okay with the Pests because that's the same as just dog rounds being reused, but I don't want to see Manglers and Abominations and Amalgams be the only mini-boss we get in maps. Or even worse, like they did in Cold War, add one new AI to the DLC map and then put all of the base game ones in there too. I don't want to face a new enemy that's like a crocodile and then on top of that I have Amalgams, Abominations, Manglers and more. No, instead just leave those in Liberty Falls and Terminus and give me something new with the DLC maps. And lastly, what I want to touch on, this one's going to be a big one and very controversial. This was leaked before launch. It was in the Steam strings, I believe, but it never was in the game at launch clearly. So whether or not they're going to add this in future, I have no idea, but it is Classic Mode. There was a leaked Classic Mode which was set to be coming to Black Ops 6 Zombies, which is said to have been completely old school gameplay style. So it was going to have no mantling, no rarities, salvage, the old point system and whatnot. I would love to see this added to the game, and for me it's the one thing I need to see them do to consider this on the same level as BO3 and BO4. If they don't do that, then this is still just going to sit around the top 5, but it's not going to make it into my top 3. But just to be very clear on what I would want to see in a classic system, I would like no mantling. I think mantling completely changes the feel of a zombies map. I think it makes it feel less scary. I think it makes it more chaotic and not in a good way, and I don't like the way the gameplay feels with it included. The next one is rarities. I straight up do not understand the rarity system, and I don't mean that as in I don't get how it works functionally. What I mean by that is I don't think it's achieving what it's supposed to achieve. I do not like the rarity system in Black Ops 6 Zombies, and while I could explain why I don't think it's achieving what it does, I did this on Twitter and everybody just completely missed the point. So I'm just going to leave it there, but if you know, you know. The rarity system is absolutely ridiculous. It's such a waste of space. I would like to see that taken out in classic mode. The next is no salvage and no crafting. I do not want to craft monkey bombs, have them drop in the box. I do not want to craft stuff like the Kashmir device, put it in the box. I don't want to have to use salvage to put an AAT on my gun. Let me use points to do that instead. And speaking of points, bring back the old point system. This is something I really liked, and when they removed it in Black Ops 4, I was really upset about that. I just didn't understand. It was something that turned me off of BO4 a lot of the time, and for me personally, the old system with points was very good because it gave bad weapons a reason to be good. An SMG that was previously useless on high rounds was now extremely useless because of the functionality it provided with giving you points. And not to mention right now that if you're in co-op and a teammate dies and respawns with no points on round 40, how are they supposed to get any points back? If there is no way to make points without killing zombies and they can't get a kill, it just feels like it throws them out of the game if they die on a high round. I really dislike that system. But speaking of systems that I don't like is the armor system. I went into this earlier, I'm pretty sure, but in short, I don't like armor in zombies. That belongs in Warzone. I don't want that in a classic mode. Keep it out. I am fine with just junk. I'm fine if I'm squishier. Take armor out of zombies, please. The next one I want to talk about is the kill streak system. This is zombies, not multiplayer. I don't want to call in a chopper gunner. I don't want to call in an airstrike. There we go. I don't need kill streaks in zombies. And now for the final few here, I want the old max zombies cap back. There is something to me which feels so awful about running high rounds, and there is just maybe 120, 150 zombies on the map. Of course, I'm being facetious there, but there is a lot of zombies at once, and again, it's very important to know, and I know that regardless of what I say, I'm going to hear it in the comment section, but this isn't one of those cases where it's hard. I don't find the game hard because there is that many zombies on the map. I don't find the game hard because of half of the stuff they've put in it. It's extremely easy to high round on this game. But is it enjoyable with the current zombie cap? To me, not really. I'd like to see less zombies on the map at once if they did a classic mode. And finally, for the classic mode, this one I don't mind if it's on or off, but for me it's the augment system. I don't want my augments to be active when I'm playing classic. Let me play with the base version of everything, like good old classic BO3, BO2, BO1 zombies. I don't need to see the augment system. If they do keep it in, I won't be too mad about this so long as everything else I've mentioned is disabled, but the augment system, if I had the choice, I'd also disable that. So there we go. That's my list of what I would want to see if they did a classic mode in Black Ops 6 Zombies. I just want to say on a closing note as well before we end the video here, that again, the one thing I keep seeing people say is, if you're a Black Ops 3 fan, why don't you go back and play Black Ops 3? And I think that's such a freaking just terrible argument, because ultimately all it's doing is shutting down conversation, and I don't think that every BO3 fan wants everything to be like BO3, but I also don't think that there isn't a large portion of people that aren't like that either. There's definitely a lot of people who just want to hate on everything new, but there are people who have legitimate concerns and want to see them addressed for the better of the mode they love. I don't think it's fair to just push someone away because they want to play updated content. There's something very, very different between someone not wanting to play the new game, but someone not wanting to play the new game, but wanting new content. Like, the BO3 fans, yes, they have customs, yes, they have the maps and gameplay they know and love, but I don't think a lot of people have stopped to consider that they do want to move up. They do want to come to the new games and enjoy the new maps and the new content, but it's just very hard for them to do so. And I think shutting down their feedback is just a terrible, terrible thing to do. And just to be clear, this works in reverse as well. I don't think that if you're a BO3 fan, you should be completely shutting down everything people from the new game have to say in regards to praise for it or criticism for it. I think the moment that starts happening, everybody gets divided and we get less stuff for zombies because everybody's just at each other's throats. And that's just what I've seen, period, over the launch of Black Ops 6, is everybody, BO3 fans, Black Ops 6 fans, Vanguard fans, if they're even alive anymore, just saying that, you know, either side's opinion does not matter. And to me, that is really, really upsetting. So I just wanted to throw that in at the end here. But that is my review of Call of Duty Black Ops 6 Zombies. Let me know if we should check out the DLC when it comes out. Hopefully they don't fumble the bag. And if you enjoyed this video, please sub to the channel. We're trying to hit 60k by the end of the year. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll check you all in the next one. And Treyarch, please don't fumble.